All right, guys. Thank you everybody for joining. I really appreciate you guys all logging in, and we will begin. My name is Nachman. I'm the CEO and founder of Connect Books. This webinar series is under our eCom accounting circle, and we host these monthly webinars. Every single month, we host a monthly webinar, and we try to bring on exciting and intuitive guests to bring on. And this month, we have the pleasure of having Jacob Weberman. Jacob is the CEO of OnTrack. OnTrack provides a lot of different services. It's actually also something that I think they also train bookkeepers. Besides that, they do, I think, bookkeeping on the side because they want to be in the loop. They also help existing bookkeepers and train things out. We're going to go through the webinar, what we will focus on. Stay tuned in till the end. We'll discuss more stuff that we will be giving out a checklist, which will be for all the people who stay tuned in towards the end. And we will have more information how to stay connected and how to keep in contact. Besides that, we also have a Q&A session. So we'll be going towards the end, and anything you have, any questions you have should go into the Q&A. The chat is more just for something, but if you have like a question that you want to address towards the end, that will be in the Q&A session. And we're gonna now take this off, and just in the meantime, I also want to just say that we do have a LinkedIn group, and there's also a WhatsApp group, and there's a WhatsApp group as well, a separate WhatsApp group where a lot of bookkeepers hang out there. And then we also have a LinkedIn group, which is more like for e-commerce focused. If anybody wants to join, we'll have that information towards the end of the webinar. So as we're gonna start now, we're gonna start now, and we're gonna pull this off. Alrighty. So let's go to our first thing. So the first thing we're going to do is I want to introduce, it's me, and we have Jacob Weberman on the call. And now we're going to go into our first topic of building sustainable bookkeeping practices and long-term strategies. So let's go into the first topic we're going to discuss. And this is something we're going to discuss over here is the leveraging technologies for business. So I'm going to let Jacob, pull it off over here, and I'll let him discuss the first topic about leveraging technologies for business and why this is today so important for bookkeepers, and why should people want to, look out for this, and what's the important part of it.
Hello. First of all, thank you for having me. I think that you're the best example of leveraging technology for business scaling, which is like, we know each other as a bookkeepers, and the way that you took the technology to the next step in regards to the bookkeeping process. Now, leveraging technology for business scaling. Let's start with from scratch, like from the details, and then go on to the more advanced part. The goal that we have as bookkeepers is always to not enter transactions in QuickBooks. The goal that we have is to have bookkeeping, to provide bookkeeping services, which includes to have the reports the end of the month, for the end of the year, for all the business details. In order to get there, we need to enter transactions in the bookkeeping system. So I'm starting even from before. In other words, we're doing bookkeeping for 500 years. We did it on pen and paper. We're utilizing QuickBooks now, which is technically technology automating the bookkeeping process. Now, even within QuickBooks, there are a lot of manual transactions that needs to be done. Entering bills, entering invoices, entering checks, printing checks, mailing checks. So within the bookkeeping process of getting the bookkeeping done, that we're utilizing a little technology, which is the basic QuickBooks. Within QuickBooks, there's a lot of details that you can utilize. I want to start with the first part, although I believe most of the bookkeepers are doing it to the full extent, but I just want to stress her out. In order to have the best process, the least data entry, and the best results is utilizing all fields QuickBooks provides. I'll take for an example, which is job costing in QuickBooks, which can relate to almost every part of the bookkeeping process. Is whenever a transaction is related to a job cost, just utilizing the job field on the transactions can help the bookkeeper's part in the end goal in providing reports tremendously. I just had a client or a bookkeeper who I like working with, and just by the amount of hours they entered, they worked with. Let me go into the details of the example. So they had a client who was doing employee time entries. They had like 50 employees, manual timesheets. They were working like have a bookkeeper doing all week, enter manual all the time entries, and putting it down on pen and paper or in Excel, the job, how many hours they worked in the job. The same thing with the bills, all the expenses are related to the job. So they had like a full-time employee just taking the manual entries
And
and putting it
Yank, and
together.
they basically had all the expenses, all the stuff were in one huge Excel sheet, which I'm assuming
No,
you're saying is they would take everything from
separate.
QuickBooks,
So
put it into
taking
Excel sheet.
no, the opposite, and both. So it goes both ways. First, they have manual time entries. So they have it from manual timesheets, putting it into QuickBooks so they can do payroll. Then they have expenses related to vendors, but they didn't put in the job field, the customer job name on the expense line, but they still had it in QuickBooks, all the expenses. So the bookkeeping is done. They have payroll based on the hours, just takes them tremendous amount of hours to get it done. And to get the reports, they now need to take all the information and put it together in order to have the job cost report. By utilizing one part, every expense should have the job cost, whatever jobs it's related to. Using a timesheet, any time
But
time
what was
clock, should it be,
so like for
should it
example, if they were using, let's say, something like T-sheets or finger
use
check,
T-sheets, finger check,
they
Friday,
would be able
whatever you
to
name it,
they would be able
employee clocks
to
in,
clock in on a job.
clocking on a job, we approve it. It's like a job that used to take a week for a full-time employee can be done in a half a day now. And
Wow.
it's more accurate
And
just by
how much time do you think they saved on the bookkeeping process by implementing, let's say, the job costing technologies, using any of the tools you mentioned?
a full employee.
Wow. So basically, you're saying is that they were doing everything manually in Excel, downloading stuff in Excel sheets, and doing something like old school, where they were like figuring out, okay, like we have this huge project here, like we invoiced the customer $200,000. What are the expenses for the, what are all these expenses, and how much the expenses were for that job and what they made. Instead of like going through all those stuff, they can have every employee clocking on the job. So that's how they get the payroll broken down on a job level. And then they can also take all the expenses straight from the bank feeds and assign it to a job right away. So that's how when they run a profit and loss by job, they know exactly how much money they're making. Wow.
Correct. So
Amazing.
again, I was talking about a client, a real case scenario that they had 50 employees. Any company that has more than that, that means they have 2 employees they can cut by just automating it.
Right. All right. It's definitely a huge time saver. Wow. Wow. And this is the idea that we're trying to talk about. We're trying to bring out the point is that there's a lot of new technologies in there. And we're not even going to get into AI because AI has blown things in a whole different perspective. And AI, I don't know if it's so accurate yet in the accounting world. But before we even jump to that, there's a lot of good technologies out there that can reduce a lot of the manual work. And what happens is it makes you more efficient and you're able still to bill your clients, whatever you're able, if you're able to deliver faster and you can still charge your rate, you're going to end up making way more money.
In other
Bianca,
words, you don't charge your client based. It's a separate conversation, but you still charge the client based on whatever you deliver to them,
based
not
on value,
based on
not
the
based on,
hours. Correct. Not based on the work you did. You still have
right.
a full-time employee that you saved it. You figured out a way, and this is the same thing goes for everything. Printing checks. It's like there's so many examples we can
I
give
think
and
you
go into
signed up,
details.
didn't you sign up recently with Cherry?
I actually was involved in building it
Involved.
because I had a
And
client
how
that
much,
need to send ACH. I used to send like 600 or 700
wow.
ACHs every second week. It was a full day with a lot of mistakes, like just sitting and entering it. But Cherry technically it takes 2 minutes. Nothing else being done, no mistakes, and just cutting
And you're
so many
still
hours.
billing the same what you used to bill?
It's the same. I'm delivering the same part,
You're
even
still
better.
delivering. Yeah,
Okay, even
that's
better.
the point which bookkeepers need to take into account. That if they leverage technology and they do the proper research on what's out there, they definitely can save a lot. And that's the same thing what I did with Connect Books. The idea was that we used to go to Amazon and download reports manually and download everything individually and, spend a lot of time and all that. And I knew two things. Number one, this is not a scalable approach in order to, like, if you want to scale the business, you want to go up to 20 employees, it's going to be very hard to go up to 20 employees when you have a very tedious manual process in place. So one of the things that we did is we built out a software which basically automates this process. And the idea of the automation is that, number one, we're able to, it first of all simplifies the process and makes it easier for the employees. And they don't have to become Excel gurus into every little thing. Like if you're working always in Excel sheets, then besides doing the basic stuff, you have to now train them how to do all these formulas. And there's always problems and formulas and things going wrong and things happening. And when you have a good automation process, the system just flows. And then, and then you're able to, and then you're also able to scale and you're able still to deliver. I actually had one interesting thing to add on was that on consolidations, which I'm actually looking into now, is I have a customer that we have 6 different corporations, and we have one company sells to the second company. And the problem is that at the end of the day, we need to make a P&L. We have to have a consolidated P&L because otherwise we're missing half the picture. And even at consolidations, I know with QuickBooks Desktop, there's a different software, I think Helix, but it's a little bit pricey. And I think with QuickBooks Online, there's different, options. But if you have a good software that, like if you use QBO in that case, and you have a good consolidated program, it would put everything together just with a click of a button. And that would help out a lot. But yeah, this is something, a lesson for everybody to look into. And, in whatever area of expertise, whatever you're looking at, if you're in the construction industry, you want to focus on job costing or something even like Bull.com and, any of these other tools. If you're in the e-commerce field, these other tools, and you want to constantly look out what technologies there is, which is going to automate the process and help scale your business, which makes life easier for you and it helps you go on to more things. All right, we're going to move on now to our next subject, the next topic. All right, so our next topic is effective marketing techniques for bookkeepers. So this is something I have seen, people struggle with, and it's something that I've struggled with. And, I'm going to be sharing my struggles, and Yankee is going to be sharing his struggles of, how you start out in business. So one of the things is when you start out, especially as a bookkeeper, first thing is, how do you find customers? And I even remember when I actually started my business, I left my previous job. And I knew one thing: I can't do bookkeeping on the side while I was employed, because I felt like I wanted to put my full attention to it. And I remember when I started, the first day I sat into my new office, I'm like, okay, what's now? We got to start finding people. And I struggled for a while. And one of the things that I did in the beginning, and it didn't work for me, and the reason why I'm sharing it is I don't want you people to make the same mistake, and I just have no problem other people learning from it, is I did a lot of advertising. So I tried to do a lot of ads. I mean, the first thing actually I did was actually went through all the people in my contacts. I called a lot of people, went through a lot of different people, but I also ran a series of ads. I spent over $10,000 on ads, whether it was a lot of local papers, and none of them actually worked. And the reason what I came to realize is that bookkeepers and accountants are somebody that you want to have more of a personal touch. You want to like feel more like, oh, this is somebody I can trust. This is somebody I can relate to. And most people, when they open up an ad and they see an ad, they don't open up an ad and say, okay, I'm going to use this accountant because I see an ad in the paper. They're usually going to go ask a friend. They're going to go make their research. They're going to try to hear something about. So what has worked for me, and I know a lot of people, was content. Content was, and I know these people on the webinar here that are posting great content on LinkedIn and other places. Now, LinkedIn, you're just visible to the LinkedIn traffic, but what has done for me was like, we had like a certain write-up, which we explained that we're able to do complex functionalities in terms of marketing. So I'm sorry, not marketing, in terms of bookkeeping. We're able to explain that we can do good calculations for warehousing and calculate cost of goods sold properly and calculate how much the cost of assembly is. And we had a write-up about that, and somebody read it, and the guy said, hey, wow, this is something interesting. If I can get this in my business, it will be amazing. And they reached out to us. And that's how we got legit business. And, just regular ads and most of those other stuff did not work. So the thing that worked for me was content marketing a lot. And Yankee, what was the things that worked for you in terms of getting this out?
So I actually started without any ads. I didn't spend anything in advertising. I just did networking, going around one person to the other. It doesn't matter if that person has a business and needs a bookkeeper or he already has a bookkeeper. You, whoever you speak to, you tell them, "Hi, I'm doing bookkeeping. You know someone who needs bookkeeping, or you know someone who knows someone who might need something. Just tell them my name." I just went around. I went like to the local restaurant for lunch every day. I met people there and I picked up some clients. This way, I picked up accountants there that sent me a lot of clients. The actual restaurant became my customer one day just because I went around speaking to everyone. So what I found effective, of course, it's content also. You need speak people speak to you, they see that you know what you're talking. But the main part is bookkeeping is a very sensitive service. You actually know exactly what the other person has in his bank account, how much money he makes, or you know it better than him. So is going just to a bookkeeper like, hey, they're doing bookkeeping service. I'm just going to try them out. No, they need to know the person. They need to trust them. They need to feel comfortable with them. Now, people feel comfortable based on the character of the person, they know him, or based on another person who refers them, tell them, hey, this guy knows what he's doing and you can trust him. And I'm working with him for a while and I'm very happy with it. So going around and speaking to people, anyone is what I have seen to be working the best in whatever type you're trying to do. Should it be another
And
type of
Yankee, I
service?
would add on that goes back to what I was saying before, is that networking gives that personal touch. And accountants in general usually don't like too much to like network a lot. Accountants and bookkeepers usually more like they like to sit on their numbers and do their work. But ultimately, if you want to grow your business, you got to do sales. And this is, this is what getting to know somebody is usually one of the best ways to get good clients. And that's what, something that worked for Yankee a lot is like, people, you network a lot. And when you network, people get to know you.
So networking is actually starting it. Once you have customers and you deal with other vendors, your customers,
But
clients, your
people also
customers,
want to know
vendors.
you as a person. People want to know you as a
Correct.
person, like how
Correct.
trustworthy you are. Who are you? People are just not interested in saying, "Oh, here's my QuickBooks, here's my bank account, here's my credit cards, here's everything," and just
Correct.
take everything and go. It's a certain
Even
trust
even
factor
even
that
if they
people have
even
to
if they
have.
know you, they heard from someone else. If they can't place you as being the one who's going to know his financial information, then they wouldn't take you. Even just because someone told me that using it wouldn't help enough. So it will be knowing the person. So networking is, I believe, the most important part. And then after networking, you start doing a little prayers, and then it comes.
Yankee, I think the way that we got to know each other was also through networking. Going out to events, going out to other places, and one of the things I like to go to shows. I like to meet other bookkeepers, other accountants, other people, and we get to know a lot of people in the space. And it's not just the networking helps you, and you just get to know people, and more people know of you. Like somebody asked me once, "Oh, do you know this guy?" Of course, I know. He's a very trustworthy guy. He's a good person. A lot of times, people don't even realize like when people to call me in about connect books and they're saying, "Oh, we want to use that bookkeeper," and I'm like, "Yeah, sure, I know them. They're very good. They're honest. He knows what he's doing." And what that does is that like resonates on that side. On the other end of the customer side, is like, wow, okay, connect books said that they're a good company. We're going to use them. So like
So
it's
so
not
let's
not
let's
always
let's rephrase the networking part. It's not only networking with clients, networking with the
it's
other
not
bookkeepers is technically one of the biggest pushes and bringing your name out. People know about you and getting more clients. And
once.
I think that this is lately being done a lot, that we network a lot, and automatically more people know of each other.
But I think it's very important that bookkeepers take this into account, that they have to network. And if you don't network, people are not going to know about you. It's not just not going to know about me. It's probably, I would say, for coming from a bookkeeper's perspective, it's probably one of the hardest things to do, because we're not. The way I look at it, and this is the way I am, is like marketing is one type of people, and then you have the accountants and bookkeepers. They're not like they're more like I'm not sure the right word to use, but they're not like the people who like really want to go all day and networking. You know, like for example, if you're going out at night, you'll find more salespeople networking than accountants. The accountants are still in the office doing the tax return. The salespeople are all out, you know, just but
the
but the
DNA.
accountants and bookkeepers have to do it. They
Sure. So
have to do it.
The DNA of a bookkeeper is not to socialize. Socialize, guys going, everything is good, we're just having a good time. The DNA of a bookkeeper is sitting and facing real life scenarios. You make money, you don't make money, it goes up, it goes down, and you got to deal with it. It's totally the opposite, but
Right.
you still have to do it.
You have to do it if you want to grow your business. Yeah. Yeah, some introverts, that was the word. Thanks really for the word. Introverts. Accountants and bookkeepers are more introverts, and they just need to constantly keep this in their mind that if they don't network and they don't go out, it's not gonna it's gonna
Nobody will know about you.
out.
Even you are in business for 10 years. People forget. You need to constantly be top of mind and show your face.
Good. All right, we'll move on to our next topic. Our next topic is another challenge that bookkeepers have a lot of issues with. And it's something that I also struggled with, so I really understand it, really can adapt to it. And I even recently saw this more online that people people post, and I actually like to take this, and whenever I find somebody's doing bookkeeping, like I like to challenge people out and like to one-on-one on this. So, on the side, we're saying identify unique selling points. How do you stand out? And, the other way to ask this question is what makes you better than your competition? And, we're on here in the webinar. We have quite a lot of, we have here a lot of people joined this webinar. And the question I can ask everybody here is what makes you different than your competition? How do you stand out? And that helps a lot when you want to do a sales pitch. So when you have a prospect, you have a client, somebody wants to come in and use your services, the question always is going to be, what are you better than competition? Or what do you do? And I've seen a lot of times people, they don't know the proper way what to say. And what happening, I'll do all your bookkeeping. I'll do everything for you. And that's the worst thing you can do. That's the worst. And that's what I used to do. Like you tell people, oh, anything financially, just rely on me. Now, if you want to find yourself a job and you want to work for one person and you want to carry their financial burden on your back and be employed, that's one thing. But if you're looking to build a company, you're looking to scale and you're looking to go to 100 plus clients, it's impossible. So the idea is you have to understand what are you delivering for the client. And what I would say is also a very strong point is make sure that when you're doing a sales pitch, the person sees value in what you're selling. Meaning, you have to make sure that they understand that the money they're paying is they're actually getting X, Y, and Z, and they should understand. Like let's say, for example, one common challenge I always face is people tell me I can hire somebody in-house to do the bookkeeping. Why do I need you? If you're charging me $700 a week, I can hire an employee for $800 or $900 a week. Why do I need your service? So I have an answer to that. And I know exactly how to go about it. But that did not come in the first day. That came after 5 years. And this is the real question is when you want to identify like a unique selling position, you want to understand what value do you bring to the table? Why should somebody want to use these services? Why shouldn't somebody else go? Why shouldn't they go? And also, why shouldn't they go somewhere else? So I think Yankee had a very clear take on this. And Yankee, you're in business already for a while. What do you do when somebody comes over to you and asks other stuff? Like how do you take the sales pitch in a certain sense where when somebody comes over to you and asks you like, what are you better or why should they use your services versus going to somebody else?
So there's two ways of going about it. Now, when you're trying to do a selling pitch, it always depends who you're talking to. Because most people, you tell them like you do bookkeeping, in their mind, the definition of bookkeeping means secretary, means a collection agency, means all kind of phone answering. There's so many hats that the bookkeeper in a company sometimes do that you don't even. So they refer to bookkeeping as one thing. So the best part that is when you want to explain exactly what you do is by explaining what you don't do. You tell them, I don't do secretaries. For example, I only do bookkeeping. I don't do as a bookkeeping service. So I don't do any secretary work. I don't pick up any phones. I don't do collections.
And you're not
Yes, I can
afraid
do
you're gonna
part
lose
of
a
it.
customer. You're not afraid you're gonna lose a customer when you say that.
If I'm losing the customer, that means that they're not looking to the service for the service I'm providing. So and when I started out, I didn't even know exactly what I'm doing. Of course, I said I'm doing all these things till I identify, no, I'm not doing this. So by now, I already know to explain exactly. I'm only doing that part, and I'm only doing that part. Now, what is my, what am I different than my competition? Maybe it's because I am specialized in one thing. I don't do all the other things. The real answer, it doesn't really matter when you try doing selling point. The real answer is, like we're talking about bookkeepers, everyone has their own way of doing things and everyone has their own value. So, but a client belongs, every client belongs to a different bookkeeper. It's like a shidduch. It's like, or everyone needs to fit in to exactly what that person provides. And usually what someone is happy in one place, it wouldn't be the same happy in the other place. But as a selling point, the other person don't really understand it, but you can try focusing on what you do, what you don't do, and try to see what that person has in mind as a bookkeeper needs to do. And then you can tell them, I can do this and I can do this.
Wow. I also had a very similar experience. So one of the things that it took me a lot of time to come to realize is that the way I differentiate myself, I differentiate myself really in two ways. And this is something I already spoke more about a lot of times, is about having a certain niche. So this I differentiate myself between other bookkeepers, is that I focus on e-commerce. And I know I'm an expert when it comes to this industry, and other industries I'm proud to say that Jacob knows better than me. I haven't touched construction or other stuff in already for years. And if somebody would have a question in that area, I would refer them elsewhere. So sometimes niching down is definitely a way to go, because you develop a certain area of expertise. And I actually spoke to a certain company that are niching down in 3 industries. You don't have to niche down to one industry, but you can niche down in 3 industries and say, these are my 3 areas of expertise. And you focus solely on these 3 areas of expertise. And what happens is, that's one thing that can help you, how you stand out different from other companies. But going back to my other question that I said in the beginning, like when somebody would ask me, like, hey, I can hire somebody in-house, why should I use your service? And my answer usually to that is, you can hire somebody in-house, but let me just explain the difference. You have somebody in-house, unless that person has, let's say, 10 years experience under their belt, which they know they know exactly what they're doing, but you're basically relying on this person. If you're relying solely on this person to do your bookkeeping, then there's no way for you to know if you're doing it right, you're not doing it right. You're just relying on this bookkeeper. And then if the accountant comes in once a year or even once a quarter, it's going to be pretty difficult for the accountant to find every little mistake. Meaning, especially I know, like in the inventory-based business, of course, the goods sold is accurate. There's no way an accountant's going to know, because accountants doesn't even know the product, so they have no clue what they're seeing. Meaning, they can check if the bank is reconciled, they can check like the 1 or 2 main stuff, but they don't have like a real way of actually getting into the books unless they sit and work on it for 2 or 3 days. And most accountants are not going to do that, or unless you find somebody to do like CFO services who is going to get into that. But one of the things that I say is that the idea of hiring us is that we are experts. That's the idea. The idea is that we are experts. Now, do you want proper books? Do you want a proper balance sheet and a proper P&L? Meaning, I can give you a P&L, but the question is, how accurate is it? Or if you're going to have the tough questions, like if you're going to want to understand better, what is my overhead? What is my break-even point? Could you do a budget? Could you do a budget versus actual? Like, these are stuff that I would say the ordinary bookkeeper is usually not going to know. And when you want to do that, the question is like, how do you want to phrase it? You want to go in-house? Are you looking just for like secretarial work? We don't do secretarial work. We do bookkeeping. Bookkeeping means I always tell people, like, like, oh, what's the big deal? You're just doing data entry. It's not data entry. If the data entry is not done right, then your P&L is not right, then your balance sheet is not right, and then you need a CFO to pay who knows how much money to go fix up the books to figure out all the mistakes are done. So it starts in the data entry, it starts in the proper way. If you want to make sure the books are right, you want to hire an expert. If you don't really care too much about books, then take a secretary, get it for cheaper, or maybe hire some virtual assistant who can, do data entry. They do it also well. I mean, they do data entry well, not bookkeeping well. But so the idea usually what I approach is that we are experts. and we know what we're doing. And the services that you want from us is to give you accurate numbers. And you want to make sure at the end of the month, when I send you this report, it's numbers you can rely on. And you want to make decisions based off this. If you know that there's a mistake and you make a decision based on your mistake, then you just lost a ton of money. So you want to make sure that these numbers are the right way. And going in-house, you lose that credibility of making sure it's done right. Now, I'm not gonna say that you can't find anybody. You definitely could find people, but if you're looking, usually if you're gonna hire like a beginner or a junior to just do your basic bookkeeping, it doesn't have a strong background. Most of the time they're going to make a lot of mistakes, and the problem is the mistakes are unintentional. Like they don't even realize they're making a mistake. They don't know how to record this. They don't know how to record that. There's a lot of different transactions need to be recorded. Of course, these are the basics of just entering invoices and receiving payments and doing all that. But there's a lot more to that. There's reconciling the balance sheet, making sure the balance sheet is not out of whack, reconciling the P&L, and just making sure there's nothing out of consistency. So in that case, we're kind of like trying to deliver the value that we're actually delivering to the customer, saying that we're experts in this, we're going to deliver value on how to do the proper bookkeeping and how to do it the right way. Versus if you go just in-house, you might end up with a disaster. So in this case, when I approach a customer, I feel like I'm delivering value, setting myself apart, differentiating myself, and we try to go from that route.
In general, a bookkeeper in a company can never do the same that a bookkeeper that has different companies and work on it.
Sure.
It's always different with the mindset of an outside bookkeeper providing a service than an in-house bookkeeper. The way he looks on things, the experience that he has, it's totally different mindset. It doesn't mean there are not good bookkeepers in company. Definitely there are. It just still has some more knowledge and more experience with an outside bookkeeper. Now you can have someone inside doing the basic work, just using the outside bookkeeper for advice or review or like general consulting like here and there on the bookkeeping process. But definitely using an outside service is more value than in-house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what I would definitely I would add on another point is that an outside bookkeeper also gets to see a lot of clients. You get to see a lot of different books from different people.
They get more experience.
And they get way more experience versus just focus on one thing. Yeah, so we're gonna move on to the next slide, and this is really what helps out a lot. So once you understand what the service you offer, meaning that you're offering bookkeeping and what bookkeeping involves, what actually are you delivering, what does a balance sheet even mean, and how you deliver that to a client, that's going to take you in to the next thing is building a strong client base and focusing on deliverables. So that kind of ties into what I said before, and that ties into what Yankee said before, is that when you start off and you say like, I'm going to do everything, basically, if one customer hasn't paid the invoice, you're at fault, right? If one thing goes wrong or whatever. If you focus on if you're very clear on what you're selling, and your sales pitch and your proposal is clearly written out, and you're on the same page with the customer, what you're going to give them every single month, and you make sure to fulfill those promises, then you should have customers should be very, very happy with you. And that's something that you want to make sure to focus on. You want to make sure to focus on those deliverables and making sure to be clear on what you're going to give for them. And once you're clear on what you're going to give for them, like Yankee says, like, just don't overpromise. Don't overpromise, don't overcomplicate. Be clear. I'm not your secretary. If you plan on doing collections, be clear that you do collections. But if you don't plan on doing collections, just be clear with that. If you don't plan on, helping them out with certain bank activities, let them be clear with that. And just say, I'm doing X, Y, and Z. And then every single month, deliver X, Y, and Z. And, that's going to really, make sure that you're going to be put apart and do it the right way.
What you can add to that when you focus on deliverables, like once you do one service for a client, after a while, you can always sit down with him and see what else he needs, and you might be able to sell him on more services. He's happy with the first one. Why not add to it more? He anyways likes your touch. You're anyways part of his business. You anyways know the ins and outs. Then you can just focus on building up your practice and focus on and adding more deliverable values.
And we're running a little tight on time here. Let's jump into the next thing is benefits of using task management software. So I know for me, this has been a game changer, having a proper task management software. I'd say my hard part is being on top of it, that being on top of the employees that are actually doing it every single month. We actually hire now somebody in our company to be just managing the ClickUps tasks. We use ClickUps. You can use Asana or any of the other tools, and want to make sure that all the tasks that are in there are being done in the proper way. And you have to organize it and build out dashboards and do it the proper way that you can be on top of to making sure your deliverables happen time. Yankee, what is your take on the task manager? I know you have a lot of you have some good stuff to say about it.
Okay, now this is for any person running a business and of course doing bookkeeping. You have to use a task management software, no matter what. You have to have everything you do on a task management software. Should it be information what you need to do, setting up recurring tasks, when you need to do it, how to do it, should it be a checklist on each task, whatever it is, whatever system, it doesn't matter. You have to use a task management software.
What's your favorite tool, Yankee?
I wouldn't say favorite, I say favorite. I'm using Active Collab. When I started, was no ClickUp, Asana wasn't that good, Monday was just new. So I just started with Active Collab, and there is no way, I can't see myself getting out of it. Now, there are other task management systems, more integrations, more features. More features is not always better. And
You don't want to
Active
make it too
Collab,
complicated.
yeah, so Active Collab is just the way I am designed to work on it. Now, of course, first you do use it for everything. It's not really a CRM, it's not for anything, but I use it for a lot of things because this is where I operate. This is where my staff operates on. This is where they have all the information. So I'm stuck with it. That's what I need. My task management has everything. Now, in general, almost every part that doesn't work out, something going wrong within a project, within a customer, within a task, if you go back, if all the rules of using a task manager system were followed, like 99.99%, you'll see that the rules that you have set up on your task management system was not followed. Because the task management system is should be set up in a way that the service that you provide, the work that you do, should be done correctly. I mean, while you're setting it up, obviously you're setting it up right. You make sure everything, all information you need is there. You make sure the due dates are correct. If it's not followed, then you have all kinds of mistakes. It's psychological, what it does to your mind while working or while doing any type of bookkeeping task, any type of financial part, whatever, or maybe in any other things. I only do bookkeeping, so I don't know yet in the other parts. But while using task management systems and properly recording everything, sometimes it sounds stupid. I need to record and write down everything. The clarity that you get on the work that you do and the accomplishment that you have when you complete these tasks and the clarity when you have when you know what to do, it's time scheduling, it's organization, like not multitasking, whatever it is, using the task management software that you use it to the full extent. The more you're going to use it, the more successful you're going to be and the more you're going to accomplish.
Yankee, did somebody help you set this up, or you
One of my
did it on your
staff.
own?
One of my
Anyone help
staff.
you set up your task program, or you just did it
My
on your own?
staff. I
Your
did
staff.
everything on my own. My
I,
staff
I
did it.
spoke once to a bookkeeper who told me he hired a company to help him set up ClickUps. I mean, I like their setup. It was a little bit, complicated. I mean,
Every person has
but if
their own
somebody,
unique touch. So, but you need
right,
someone to, again, ClickUp has so many features that you do need help instead of you want to go learn a whole new system. So you do need
ClickUps are
someone
pretty
who knows the
simple.
system. What is it?
Right, but I said it's pretty simple, but you got good ways of setting up. I'm just trying to point out that if you
Again,
are
you're a
struggling as
geek. You're a techie. It's a different thing. A normal person who knows good bookkeeping, he knows super how to do reports and do bookkeeping for a client, does not need to be a specialist in a task management system.
yeah. Now I think there is people who specialize in that. So if you are struggling out there, if you want to reach out to me later and we could have I could recommend one or two people who focus on on setting up task management programs and software. All right, we're gonna jump in now to our Q&A session. And let's see here. I have a few questions coming on here. So question number one is people want to know what is the correct way to establish pricing structure of service and starting out. Yankee, you want to take that question?
And what is it? What is the
What is the correct way to establish pricing? So that's something people always ask. these value pricing or hourly
the first,
pricing?
so again, there's two things that you need to make sure always. You need to get what you're providing, and you need to have a client that is ready to pay it. These two parts always have to match. If there's a service that you cannot live on it while providing the service, then don't do it. If that client cannot pay you, then obviously you can't work with him. If he's a beginner and he's going to make money, so you want to invest in him, then become a partner with him. You can't do something as an investment. I mean, I learned this really the hard way. So you have to make sure these two things. You need to get someone ready to pay, and you need to get someone, and you need to be able to live on it. Now, you need to find the correct way on doing your work through technology, through task management, to process, to team management, whichever way you want to call it. You need to find the way how to get it done right and how to deliver it to the client and explain your value to them.
I would emphasize on what you're saying is that you need to make sure that the clients are ready to pay, because I've had it in the beginning, especially a couple of times, like people try bargaining, people try doing other stuff, and it just doesn't end up working out right when people like try to doing it. So you definitely want to make sure that you want to make sure that what you need to make. I usually say, like, look how much money you want to bring them a week, and then try to pack that into your hours. Like if you have employees, then break it up between how much you need to make per employee to what you want to make. And then if you see right away in the beginning that the client isn't up to your pricing structure, then just move on. I once had actually a client who came to me, and we had one customer with him, and then he wanted to bring a second customer. He had another company that he just opened, and he said to me, give me a better price. And I said, for what reason? I said, it's a whole nother company. I said, I can give you a little bit of better price, but I'm not going to drop it down to he wanted I should drop it to like a quarter of what I wanted to charge. And I said, it doesn't make a drop of sense. So he was like arguing with me back and forth. And I'm like, for what? So then he tells me his last thing was that it's a new business and it doesn't make money. So I said, I have a very good idea. Give me some partnership in the business and I'll drop down the price that quote. He's like, no, I'll pay you full price and I'm not taking you as a partner. So, but like you have to make sure that the money is there right away in the beginning. And, sometimes it's painful because people you're desperate for business. But what ends up happening is when you don't charge the right price and you take cheap customers, you're basically making less money, and it also takes up your time. So even if you don't have what to do, I rather sit empty. And the reason why I would sit empty is I'm not going to klutz. What I'm going to do is if I'm not going to have business, I'm going to be going out there and finding other times to find other, I'm going to go out there and try to find, other business. If I'm busy working under what I want to make, then basically I'm not making what I want to make, and I don't have time to find other business.
So again, but 1 second, when someone is a beginner and he starts out and he's ready to take anyone, I usually say, you can go to a client who cannot pay you. You tell them, listen, I just started out. I'm ready to do it for this amount. I'm going to learn on you, but I'm going to grow together with you. And then when you feel like you need to get experience. I mean, there's nothing without experience.
But I worked
with experience, but not everyone's coming. Some people just start out. Start with anyone.
I wouldn't recommend just starting out bookkeeping if you have never worked for somebody. I would recommend.
There's some people it works. I actually also worked as a bookkeeper before.
No, I worked for somebody for 4 years. So by time, and I took a master's degree in accounting. So by the time I started my own bookkeeping business, I knew bookkeeping. I knew what I was doing. I didn't have to
you need to get a course. You need to know what's going on, the basics, but to get the experience. The experience you can get for cheaper.
Mm-hmm. I would say you need to work for somebody for a good 2 to 3 years to gain the basic. Either work for somebody in a different bookkeeping company or work as an in-house bookkeeper.
That's business knowledge. That's also.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to our next question. Somebody wants to know what the difference is of bookkeepers specialized in e-commerce. I mean, the main thing what you want to do when you're looking out for a bookkeeper is just make sure that they know what they're doing. Usually the best is to ask for references. You can ask them to give them other customers that they're working with. I know it could be a challenge, especially in the beginning when you don't have too many references to give out. But usually the best is if you have like a couple references, you're like, look, I speak to these few people, or you can ask them like, which accountants do you work with, or which other bookkeepers know you? Like, for example, if somebody would ask me, is this person a good bookkeeper? I would tell them, look, I've seen their books more than once. They know what they're doing. Or if I've had a conversation with them for 5 minutes and discussed a various topic, I would know they're on target. So you do a little homework, a little about that, and you find from there. Somebody wants to know in ClickUps, how do you deal with the one-time tasks? Something that comes up and needs to be done today or tomorrow. Well, I would say in ClickUps, the thing what I do is I usually build out dashboards. I can, if you can reach out to me afterwards, I can, give you a little bit, show you a little bit of what we do. But usually what we do is we have like a dashboard what's due today. We have a dashboard what's due this week. And and we have somebody who reviews these dashboards every single day. So that's how we know exactly what needs to be done. So there's a question, how does a freelancer know when to hire an employee? What I would say is, when does a person know to hire an employee? I would say is once you can afford to pay them. That would be my take. Yankee, what's your
I
take?
would say, why are you asking? Do you feel overworked? Obviously it is.
Well, if you want to
Don't you feel
expand, you have to,
overworked? Why do you want to hire someone?
because if you don't have extra time, then you don't have time to do sales. Like, you have to go network, you have to go do stuff. So,
Okay, so
you know,
you like Justin, it's never like exactly balanced. It's, or you have a little less or you have a little more. Like when you are feeling really over, usually someone starts out, he's working crazy hours. Is the system good enough? I always say, let's say you're ready to hire, set up your system, the task management, the instructions, the process should be 100% good. So then second you hire someone, they come to a system. Hiring someone when you don't have your process and your task management set up is just a disaster.
no, that's
Because
true. That is true. I remember I hired my first employee when I was overwhelmed, but I also made sure that we made sure also that when we give the pricing in the beginning, that it would make sense based on an employee that we will hire. So as soon as we had, like, I think 5, 6 big accounts, we right away hired somebody to take it on. So somebody wants to know, I have one client that's, they don't want your recommendations how to use credit cards. It's a challenge when a client doesn't want your recommendations, but I would say is maybe I always say my goal is to make the client happy. So if a client doesn't want to go by recommendations, I'm okay with it as long as they're happy, and I'm doing my part is by sending them reports. Actually, an interesting story. I had a client recently didn't even want to come for his monthly meeting. Like, we just onboarded them like 6 months ago. And then, like, after 2 months of onboarding, we finished and we wanted to have like just a meeting, just the first time to go over P&L, balance sheet. And they never wanted to, they like asked what the meeting is all about. We said to review financials. Like, well, I can do anything to you. I'm not going to yell. We're just going to explain to you. And they didn't want to go. So, we sent them an email once or twice, and they like didn't really want to come to it. So we just let it go. And actually, year end, they reached out to us. I would say the main thing is making sure the customers are happy, and also making sure, I would say another thing is, this goes back to understanding the value delivering is also meaning understanding what the client wants from you. Meaning, if the client hired you just to like be their secretary, then the value delivering is being their secretary. But the client hired you to do proper books and they appreciate your financials, then you send them the financials every single month, regardless if they ask or not. And then you make sure that you ask them. Actually
so
had
I
a
usually I one second, I'm actually whenever I have something like this, a client is doing something different and the reports are not that clear because he's not following the instructions. I do the reports and always add to it. This is the reports based on your current setup and the way you're doing, like you're doing it. Based on our recommendation, you should do this and this and this, so your reports will be different. Like I always spell it out till the person realizes whenever he has a question on something, they don't come yell at me. I told you do it differently. If
right.
you
But
don't want to do it,
what do you do like when you tell them like do X, Y, and Z and they just decide to ignore you? Do you get upset? Do you do anything, or you
I
just
never get
ignore?
upset. I'm providing you a service. You want to use my advice, use it. You don't want to use it, what should I tell you? I mean, don't use it. Now, if it makes my work harder, then I can add a fee to it. If I tell them, listen, or you follow my instructions, or you need to pay more. But if the result is in his work not being done correct, I always spell it out. This is how it looks based on your.
Yeah. No, I just say the main thing is to focus on the client, that the client is happy, and if they're happy, then that would be the best. Somebody wants to how to set up recurring tasks. You can just I'm gonna be
That's
posting
Okay.
Sana,
Questions in
yeah,
December.
I'm gonna be posting a link to our LinkedIn group, and or you could do on the QuickBooks group, the other one that you can just post a question there. Either I respond or somebody else responds. So a pretty simple thing. Um, Somebody wants to know, do we communicate with clients through WhatsApp? Many clients refuse to communicate in the other way for task requirements. I actually almost only communicate with WhatsApp. Every single employee in my office has WhatsApp, meaning not only do they have a smartphone, so we actually have a separate WhatsApp number for every employee, and we set it up. I pay for it, I take care of it. The idea is it's about giving service. So it goes back to making sure the client is happy, delivering what they want, and if you deliver what they want, you can make sure they're happy. That will make you successful. And it's the idea is you want to communicate the way the client wants to communicate. So if it's via WhatsApp, it's WhatsApp. It's via email, it's via email. It's via phone, it's via phone. But I personally have all my employees on WhatsApp. If you want to know how I keep track of voice notes,
One second, one
it's
second. Let me answer that question. I don't communicate on WhatsApp
so you
whatsoever.
see, we have two different perspectives.
Like
I do
totally
and
different
doesn't.
because I in my
But
personal
Yankee, I
opinion,
only talk to you on WhatsApp. I only call. I don't even
yeah,
ever
because
call
you're
you.
not my
Only
client.
WhatsApp you. What?
You're not my client.
Not your client. So if I'm client, then I get. So I'm privileged.
Yes. And most of the times I don't answer. I don't answer throughout the day on WhatsApp. You get so many messages. There is no structure. You can't look it up. People starting, for example, voice notes. A customer starting to say a voice note, doing three things in the same thing, in the same time. He starts the voice note. He doesn't
But
remember
that's why you
what
have a
he ended
task
with.
manager program. You go
So I
right
need to
away to the.
retype it. So I need to listen to it and retype it. Come on.
So I mean, I have a team of bookkeepers. They don't send. I mean, if they, I one thing have set up in my office. If you need something, it's not me. I make it very clear with them, and I do it in a nice way.
So so
Like if
so again,
somebody needs.
let's put it this way. They keep on saying, I'm taking it from the Woodard conference, from Scaling New Heights. You never go into a Starbucks with a coffee machine. Listen, I need a coffee. Make it this and this way. I mean, you go in because they know how to do coffee. You come to me because I know how to do bookkeeping. In order I should be able to do bookkeeping for you, the best way is when you type an email to me, or I have a task management system and you log on there and you do it there. Again, I'm not doing secretary work. If someone wants someone to sit and listen to his voice notes and clarify everything, when I ask him the question for something that he wants emergency, he's not taking even the time to reply to me to clarify. So, and I still need to listen to this on WhatsApp, maybe for the right price. I
Yeah,
don't
I
provide
have
the
a rule. I don't
service.
listen to messages more than 1 minute long.
So you tell the client he has an
If it's too
emergency.
long, I tell them that's the
I
reason.
told it to you. Listen, I usually reply when I see such a message. I'll make some time and I look on it. I listen to it. Now, usually if it's more than 1 minute, it's a podcast. It's not a voice note. It's not a
Exactly.
message. Even any instant message. I say it for my team, for my clients, for everything. Instant message is only if it's instant. If you don't get a reply within 2 minutes, it's not instant anymore. You send an email or you do create a task with a follow-up. For example, we're sitting here almost an hour and talking. How many messages did we receive? I need to go now because the other person sent more messages. I need to look at it first. And then if I start reading it, it's already read. So I need to take care of it. I need to ask me for 5 things. Come on. We do it. There's a proper way of communicating. You want to have it right. You communicate the proper way.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah, because
even in any phone call,
somebody's writing in this community where English is not their first language, it's a little hard to email. I agree with that.
I also
Um,
agree with that.
I actually
You
saw
have a
AI
system that you leave messages, not a voice note.
system. What system do you do for that? Voicemail?
Yes. Yes. There is something like a message box. Just call and leave a message. I'll deal with it. And again, for the right price.
Look, it's two different takes. It's two Yankee.
Correct. Correct. It's a way of setting up your team, your way of communicating, way of
I've
everything.
been able to do it, but I mean, one thing I do have, I'm not sure if you have it set up, but by me, it's very clear with every single client that if they need something, I'm not the go-to person. The
That's
go-to person.
definitely you have someone who's assigned to your
So why
account. If
can't the
he's
person you're I
so
mean, I
he's
have my
working
people
for
in the office.
you and listening to a voicemail for someone else, another person is just calling in or yelling there. I can't. I
Mhm.
don't send the reports on WhatsApp. I don't do anything on WhatsApp. The only reason I'm using it is for the department that sells QuickBooks. You need a QuickBooks. You want to have it right away. In fact, I send them an email. Can you send me your correct company name or the correct? It doesn't work. He doesn't reply. I send him a WhatsApp reply. So if I want to get the sale done, then yes.
I got it. I guess everybody has their take. There's two different sides. I do it. Yankee doesn't. And I actually at one point I was also not gonna do it. I was also trying to get on task manager and an email, but I felt like the clients more appreciated.
Existing
So
clients is very hard. Once you have a system in place, it's very hard to change anything.
right.
But it's how with
Definitely
nuance.
right. All right. Somebody wants to how do they raise prices with a client when I feel I'm underpaid? So what I've done in the past,
Just raise it.
just raise it. So sometimes you're scared you're gonna lose the business. How do you go about that?
So you need to sit down with him and explain, and listen, I'm doing this and this. Make sure you have clear what you provide for him and like what service you provide and what it takes from you. In order, you should be able to continue to make sure he's happy first. If he's not happy, then so just not a good match. Just let him go. If he's happy, just explain him. Everyone understands it. I never saw someone that I'm happy with this business. I understand that this is requires, but I can't pay you more. Then I'm sorry. If your business can't afford to someone to take care of your stuff, then you're not in business. It's going to close anyway soon. He's not be able to pay you anything. So you need just to communicate proper what you're providing him and what it takes. Everyone understands that you have to make a living, and then people ask me. I actually not take like someone went to an interview with a client. They asked him what is the price based on. So listen, I want to buy a Tesla. This is the price that I want to get to. I use it a lot. What do you mean? I want to have a house in Florida.
You know what
I don't need
I
to.
tell you know what I answer people when they ask me why I charge. I said, who do you want as a bookkeeper? You want a bookkeeper that makes money, or you want a bookkeeper that doesn't make money? Like what type of bookkeeper do you want? Everybody wants to get the best. Like everybody wants the best account, the best bookkeeper. But then when they want to, then they say, like, I gotta charge. I said I gotta charge a lot to be the best, or not I can't do it. But I actually had a few times where I had a very hard times raising prices. I did go through that. Usually what I look at I usually have like a certain profit margin what I want to hit per client, and I make sure I'm quite in line with that. The other thing what I do is I had in the other places where I was losing money, meaning I was ready to, they say the best negotiator is if somebody's ready to walk away from a deal. So I've had times where I was losing money on a client, and at that point where I was losing money is I told them, look, I'm not making money off you. You want to go somewhere else, be my guest. I just gotta move on. And basically what ended up happening was they had no choice and they like had to give in for that. So I was ready to walk away in that. And in that case, it just they had no choice and they had to pay for it. But and then the other times is like Jacob said, like if the client is really happy and I feel like I'm delivering the value and I feel like I gotta charge more because and also I also gotta give raises. I'm raising my employees every single year. So nobody's making here what when I hired them 5 years ago. So we gotta, keep it in balance as we raise it. We have to raise it up, raise it as well. Next question is, how do you communicate that you're not the right person to come if they need something? What do you? I'm assuming the question is, if you communicate like how to communicate stuff. So I usually have a very good trick for that. I don't want to get too public because I don't want my clients to know what I do to them. But if let's say I'm in the office and I just signed on a new client like recently or whatever, and they just send me a voice note, hey, I do accept the voice note. So they send me a message or they send me an email like, hey, this and this has to be done. So sometimes I like try to tell the client, like, you can call the person your rep in the office and they'll take care of it. But on the other hand, like I feel like sometimes when I say that, they'll feel like, hey, I just pushed you away or you're not important. So usually what I'll do is I'll say, I'm actually not in the office now and I'll be back like in a few hours if you can just reach out to the office directly. And usually I'll use that excuse a couple of times and they'll just get used to it. And they're just going to start seeing, hey, if I reach out to the office, it gets done in 5 minutes. If I reach out to him directly, he's usually not in the office. He's not here. He's not there. So that's usually my approach. I took this approach for one reason is because I focus a lot on making the client feel special, and I will never make a client feel like they're not valuable to me. And I by saying that, oh, reach out to the office, sometimes it will come across like, oh, so you're only here for the sale and you're not here for when once we sign the contract, you're not here. So I usually say like, I'm just not in the office now. And they usually kind of think like, oh, he's just busy. So they just call it. Usually after 2 or 3 times that usually works. So I
Yeah,
focus
may I
on,
comment on that? I think
sure.
you're just running away from the problem. Just
No,
tell them,
because
listen, in order to provide you the best service, there is someone designated for you, special for you. Why do you want me to mix in?
so sometimes they have like, sometimes they're like, it comes like, he doesn't have patience now to restart the whole conversation again with employer, or something that I can do much faster. Or sometimes like, or sometimes I've been involved in things in the past.
Yes, I
It's
was.
like,
I was. I'm not anymore. There is someone
it,
I designated someone special for you. He sits by the computer. That's his job.
I have
Tell
not,
me, try to speak to that person and tell me if he's not responding to you. If he's not responding, just tell me. But he's special for you.
I didn't, it depends on the client. It depends on the client. Look, if you can make it work on your end, you can make it. It's good that we have 2 people from different extremes, different sides. So
Yeah,
everybody gets
but
to see,
there's so many
what
issues.
works
I
for
think we
me.
should schedule another one.
Yankee,
Can go on for
yeah, it
hours
sounds
like
like,
this.
yeah, we're really over topic. I think we're gonna have to start wrapping up. But it's good to see on both sides of the view. I have my way, Yankee has his way.
There's a good example that everyone
I would say,
has their own client base and their
mhm,
unique way of doing business. So everyone just needs to
mhm.
identify his and find his clients the way he works.
Alrighty. And I would just wrap up with one last question: how to reach my target market. This goes back to what we were saying. Networking is what Yankee said worked for him a lot, and networking actually also worked for me too. And I would say um, another thing is doing content. Like, people have to get to know you. Just remember, if you sit in your basement or in an office or somewhere, wherever you are, no one's gonna know who you are. You got to get out there. You got to go around and talk to people, and you got to get out there. We will be sending a follow-up email for everybody. First, I'd like to thank everybody for joining today, and we will be sending up a follow-up email. And with the recording and stuff they want to watch, I did put in the comments our LinkedIn group if you want to join. If you join the LinkedIn group, I'm actually personally on that LinkedIn group, and I'm also on the WhatsApp group. If there's anything directly you want to ask me in the LinkedIn group or the WhatsApp group, and I will do my best to respond over there. Thank you guys so much, and thank you, Jacob, for making
Thank
this
you for having me.
a
I actually
wonderful
like it.
webinar.
You're doing more.
Yeah, we definitely should get more, and we actually will have more webinars coming up. And you just stay in tune and look out for those emails.
That's until our conference where everyone should be
Yeah,
there.
and the
I guess
Accelerate
everyone save
conference.
the date. Save
When
the
is
date,
the
please.
date,
May
Yankee?
29. May
May
29.
29. We're looking for a fantastic conference coming up. Last year was amazing. Just the community and networking and just to talk to people and get to meet so much of you was really amazing. I definitely enjoyed the day. Definitely had a lot of, I would say it was a valuable day out there, just the networking. All right. Thank you all, and hope to see you by the next webinar. Enjoy.
Thank you.